guys, it's Jenn.
And I'm Dalton.
And we are so excited to bring Remit Reality to IRL in partnership with SHILLR. Today, we have a really fascinating conversation for you guys on, you guessed it, real world assets. Welcome, everyone. Hi. Hello.
Hey,
Thanks.
it's a pleasure to be here.
How's it going? I would love to kick this off if you guys could each give a little intro into who you are, your background, whether that's Web 2 or Web 3, and then what you're building, and then we're going to dig into the nitty gritty.
Awesome. Cool. I guess I'll go first. Hi, my name is Sean Parsons. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Kettle, which is the best place in the world to trade luxury watches on chain. My background is in tech. Previously, I was working at a big tech company, quit that in 2021 to just pursue Web3 full time, and have just been heads down building the space ever since. I mean, we were doing some like arbitrage trading stuff. We built a bid aggregator for NFTs, and then most recently we built out Kettle and have been doing a lot of loans on luxury watches and really trying to push the RWA space forward. So that's a little bit about me and what we're trying to build.
I love that. We're going to definitely double tap into like the lending aggregator and bid aggregator into like how that translated into luxury watches here in a second. But Andrea, go for it.
Hi, I'm Andrea Maielli. I am the co-founder and CEO of The Colony. The Colony is a platform in the RWA space that is looking to tackle big Web 2 problems that exist in the reselling of collectibles with a Web 3 solution. And my background is in predominantly high-tech healthcare, but dove deep head first down the rabbit hole, burnt all the boats in Web 3 in about 2020 and have not left.
Nihar?
Hey guys, my name is Nihar Neelakanti, and I'm the co-founder and CEO of Ecosapiens. Our mission is really simple. We want to help individuals and brands save planet Earth. The way we do this is by infusing carbon assets into digital goods such as NFTs, digital art, in-game assets, you kind of name it, any kind of digital good. It's been 2 years since we, began this journey. Prior to this, I came from venture capital. I was doing early stage consumer investing in a few different funds, found myself down the climate rabbit hole in 2020 when we were all cooped up, at home, and I saw the wildfires really grow up in the Bay Area, and it, just took me back home to San Diego, where I'm from, and I wanted to do something about the planet, but we have to make, and I do believe that people care about climate action, but we have to make it seamless, transparent, and attractive financially and socially. And the answer was, look, what if we took carbon credits, brought them on chain, and turned them into sort of social or financial goods? That's what we do. Today we're the leader in it, and I'm excited to spend the next 10 years of my life doing it.
I love that you went from venture into like an operator role. I feel like that is rare. I want to say it's rare. I feel like most people I know are operators that go into venture.
Yeah, no, and I think that you touching on that is something that's really important here is like within Web3 in general, across the builder ecosystem, right? Like you learn as you go. And I think that what crypto provides is this opportunity to really see these holes and these opportunities to kind of pivot and then go wherever you want. And I think that this is something, obviously this is more of Jenn's ecosystem within the real world asset space, but I'm really excited to kind of hear how you guys have learned, grown, and then now are building in this space.
So with that said, I think all three of you guys know that RWAs have a particularly special place in my heart, especially within my Web3 journey, because it was really, once I started to be like, oh yeah, everything in our world is non-fungible. Oh yeah, it makes sense that this is all going to come on chain. Oh yeah, it's all probably going to come on chain in the form of NFTs. Like that's when NFTs clicked for me. And like that was during my NFT, finance era, which was great. But one of the things that I feel like I've heard nonstop over the last year and a half is people are looking at these assets and they're like, I don't understand why that needs to exist on chain. Like Nihar, I'm not sure if you've run into that with carbon credits, but like Andrea, Sean, I'm sure you guys have heard that. So what I would actually love to dig into is I want to know the why behind your platforms in like the most concise way. I want to really understand and let like the viewers and listeners understand like what is the very clear Web 2 problem that you're solving and why does it need crypto rails? Because clearly these industries haven't been disrupted in like decades, some of them centuries, it feels like. So whoever wants to kick us off there.
Yeah, I'm happy to jump in first. We looked at the Web2 reselling process of collectibles, and it's massively antiquated, particularly for small to mid-sized brands, creators that are building their communities around collectibles. And we said, it feels like there's a blockchain solution here, from more so not just the authentication piece, but also the logistics and distribution. These communities, these brands spend a ton of time behind the scenes packaging up their items, getting them shipped, dealing with potential, currency conversions, multiple transactions.
So it's almost like a warehouse, like
a piece of it, right?
Yeah.
There's no platform that does both logistics and engagement well. That's what we're looking to solve, right? We're looking to take a bit of Whatnot, a bit of eBay, a bit of Amazon, and bring the colony forward with that type of model, obviously on chain. The personal why for me was I grew up with a dad that was a massive collector, and some of my earliest memories are like going and scouring card shops and trying to get these comic books, and just there's an emotional tie to collectibles, I think for most people, quite frankly. And it just felt like, here's a problem that makes sense with blockchain. You're not trying to fit a square peg into a round hole. It actually makes sense. We have a good solution, so let's try to fix a piece of this system that's broken.
I love that. Sean, I see you nodding your head a lot. Did that resonate with you?
It totally did. It totally did. And the problems that we're trying to solve at Kettle, I think, are tangentially related to that. So we're focusing right now on luxury watches, and there's a ton of problems in the luxury watch space. So the two main things that we're trying to solve is accessibility and price discovery. These two things alone make it nearly impossible for anyone to enter the luxury watch space. And almost always, if you're not in the know, you're getting scammed. So because of the lack of transparency, the lack of price discovery, things that we take for granted in the Web3 space. Like when Blur came out with all of their bids and their collection offers and like this insane amount of liquidity, it clicked with us that that should be the way that we trade any of these types of assets, instead of dark room conversations and private group chats. And so for us, it's about price discovery. What is this watch actually worth at any given time? You can't answer that question. That question is unanswerable today in Web 2. We want to solve that by having bids, because we know from NFT land that an NFT is only worth what someone is willing to pay. It's not the floor price. And so why can't we do that with watches and any other asset class? So that's one. And then the accessibility. You need to have like 30 years of experience. You need to be in the Diamond District to get access to good prices and deals that you can actually try to flip or even just wear on your wrist. By expanding this and shining a light on it, we're hoping that anyone in the world can become a world-class luxury watch dealer, in the comfort of their own home, just like right on their phone. And so that's kind of what we're building towards and what we're trying to solve in the watch space. And those problems persist across the board in other luxury asset classes.
Well, it's pretty interesting that you bring that up, because I feel like if I were to go to purchase jewelry, usually like you go, there's a big price tag and sticker, and I just feel like if it was luxury watches, I would be even more fucked. Like, excuse my language, but I'd be all like, oh, that's 30 grand. Oh, that's great. And then they're like, well, actually it's 32 once you add taxes. And then if you insure through us too, it's actually an extra 5 grand, but that warranty. So I love that. Dalton, you wanted to.
Yeah. So I think that something that I find really interesting about watches, obviously we've been kind of in this space. We've seen there's multiple lending platforms that have kind of seen this trend of luxury goods going on chain and stuff like that. But one of the main takeaways for me, where it was like kind of an aha moment, was like, wow, this is now getting access to people. This person could be in Africa, they could be in Asia, they could be in North America, South America. It doesn't matter. If they see the value in this watch, it doesn't matter where it's at. And I think that accessibility is honestly a game changer in terms of liquidity, right? Like, are you seeing lenders and borrowers from all over the world kind of take part on the platform, and what does that kind of look like?
We totally are, and you're absolutely right. That's why we think our approach is going to win, because by allowing anyone to access this, like today, that ecosystem is restricted to one street in New York. If you're not on that street and haven't had a shop for 20 years, you're not getting access to loans. And by the way, there's $1 billion of watch loans every month that takes place in the city on that block. Why can't we allow other people to bring competitive rates to the watch lending space and allow anyone to get that yield? It just makes sense. And once you go there, you can't go back. Once you shine a light on it and allow people from all over the world to transact and they get the yield, and then people get addicted to those low rates because now it's competitive, there's no going back to the closed ecosystem. So that's what we're trying to unlock and just change forever.
Andrea, do you find that there's actually something similar with collectibles, whether it's like if you're not in a tight knit community or if you don't have, you know, a dad to kind of like usher you in, like you could go in and totally be like, oh, this is a Charizard card from like 1990, but it's like a D grade. Like, oh yeah, let me pay $5,000 for that. Like, do you
100%.
see that a lot?
100%. And, you know, I am by no means an expert, but we have brought people on the team that all have their niche within the vertical, right? It's so important because it is such a nuanced space, and you really do need someone that is specialized in Pokemon and One Piece, somebody that's got comics, somebody that is vintage video games, obviously sneakerheads. Yeah, but I think, you know, when you add in that layer of blockchain and do what we're all trying to do, you really open those doors up with a level of transparency that we don't have right now. And to your point, you know, I think that once someone sees the benefits in real time, there's no turning back, right? Yeah. Once a reseller is able to take 20% of their inventory, put it in the vault, it's on chain, transactions are seamless. Why would they ever go back to, you know, what they're currently doing? Yeah. It's kind of like, it's like Uber, right? We didn't know that Uber was an option before, and then all of a sudden taxis weren't the end all be all, and you're like, yes, this is so much easier. I think that's blockchain.
And now Uber's a verb. I'm gonna Uber there. Right. So for both like Colony and Kettle, it seems like the moment you are able to just like show someone, whether they're transacting on your platform or you're like, hey, we're going to tokenize this for you, that hooks them in, and you kind of have either a B2B partnership for life or you have a user that's like, I'm never going to use anything else. Nihar, on the like carbon credit side of things, is there a similar click that happens for people purchasing carbon credits? Like,
Yeah. You know, I might actually flip it back to like the group and,
Yeah,
and make
yeah,
this a little
please
more
do.
conversational. But I mean, who here has carbon credits in their portfolio?
I have like one of your NFTs.
Yeah.
I have one of your NFTs.
Well, I mean, have you guys seen carbon credits on Robinhood or E-Trade or?
Yep.
Yeah.
No, I haven't.
There's a really, so one of the biggest issues with carbon credits is fundamentally global accessibility, right? As a consumer, there's very few platforms today where you can access the global market of carbon credits. And it's a really big fractured market, right? You have people in Indonesia that are issuing carbon credits. You have all kinds of different science-based methods. Some are like refrigerant destruction. Some are soil regeneration. Like you can, you know, there's like 30, 40 different types of carbon credits, right? And on top of that, it's global. On top of that, there's like a different sort of risk, you know, sort of profile. Even more so, there's like global, you know, registries and agencies. There isn't like one NASDAQ, right? There isn't like one US bureau that sort of manages all this stuff. And so when you think about what the blockchain is really good at is making assets, you know, global and liquid, right? And so for us, you know, carbon credits have this like unique duality in that they actually enable people like us to make a difference, right? Like you got one of our NFTs and you actually help reforest, you know, parts of Indonesia, right? At the same time, you're getting this commodity that actually can appreciate in value so long as it has some type of fungibility and liquidity, et cetera. And that's pretty fractured in the Web 2 market, honestly. And so similar to what you guys were saying, it is really like accessibility to consumers and liquidity. And I think it's still super early days, right? We're not seeing like billions of dollars in volume of carbon credits on chain yet, but like, hey, we're all founders. We're here for a reason. If it was done, it would have been, you know, we wouldn't be doing it, right? Or if it were easy, we wouldn't be doing it rather.
Right. I think it's interesting because collectibles and luxury goods, I wrap my head around it similarly, right? Like I'm like, okay, I kind of group them together. In terms of carbon credits, I feel like it's way more crypto native in terms of you can speak a similar language. And I say the same thing about stocks and things like that, right? Like it's more financialized. We see it as a financial kind of product, right? How have you seen building in this space? And we're going to get to this across the board in the RWA space, but how have you seen carbon credits translate to crypto natives? Is it an easy conversation to have? And obviously you have a PFP project, you have like different ways that you're trying to translate, hey, this is carbon credits, but also this is an NFT project.
Yeah.
Hey, this is carbon credits, but also we have a raging freaking Instagram profile, right? Like how are you trying to like translate what carbon credits are, explain why they are important, and also like is that conversation successful to this point?
So I'll start so carbon credits are a commodity, right? And like I was saying, they have this duality in that when you buy, you're actually investing in some type of carbon capture somewhere in the world, right? So it is a do-good asset, and more companies are required to buy them as part of their own sort of carbon accounting. No one's making consumers buy them, right? No one's coming, to Jenn saying like, hey, your carbon footprint was, for this flight was blah, 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 blah. You got to go out. No one's doing that, right? Maybe the Twitterverse
maybe if I
or
was
Instagram.
Taylor Swift, to
Maybe
be
if you're
clear.
Taylor Swift.
I
And
would-
she did offset her carbon footprint.
Yeah,
actually.
the largest one, but no one talks about that. She had to
I
go
know.
to the Jets game to get
I
it cleared
know.
off the SEO.
We
Just
got to
saying.
make her a Swift sapien is what we're gonna do.
Love that.
Okay, when you do that, you call me. Okay, want to be the first call.
Yeah. But look, the thing is, carbon credits. The challenge is, if you just imagine sort of an x-axis spectrum, right? So on one side of the carbon credit market, you can view it as a donation, right? You buy this thing, it's a way to inflict, positive change in the world, etc. Right? On the other end, there are green assets that can drive yield, right? So solar energy projects, things of that nature, wind farms, whatever. I think we've seen that we've started off mostly on the impact side. And unfortunately, I started the company to help people make a difference, but I do think that when we entered crypto 2 years ago, we believed the technology, once again, created liquidity, access, whatever. But I do think that in the Web3 market to get started, you do have to have some type of financial component to it to help things really, take off initially, right? And
Degens want to be
Degens want to be Degens. And I came from Web 2 and from VC, right? So to me, it was a little bit of a unique, learning. I'm not turned off by it at all, by the way, because I think if you can actually align financial interests with positive outcomes, you actually get this
100%.
beautiful, profit meets purpose, right? But I do think we are going to start seeing more of those green assets that drive yield come on chain, and we're going to be a little bit of alpha, but we are. Dalton, you probably know. Dalton definitely knows about this, but we are working on something called Ecofi that will be a natively yield-bearing carbon NFT pretty soon.
Degen's gonna degen,
Yeah.
including me. So I feel like this actually opens up a really interesting thing, especially for Colony and Kettle. How are you? It's you guys are clearly solving some Web 2 issues, but we exist in a Web 3 space where, let's be real, majority of the people that are pushing volume and that are bringing platforms tractions are degens. How are you balancing building for those degens who are here today versus the consumers that you want to be onboarding over the coming years?
Wow, that is a phenomenal question. So I think there's a few things here. One is incentives. There's a lot of tokenization protocols and RWA protocols that came before us, and I think what they were lacking was those incentives. Tokenization is a means to an end. You have to be able to do something on the other side of that tokenization that makes it worth it for you to jump through all those hoops. And so that's part of the incentive of the long-term incentive. How do we push RWAs forward? Well, let's bake in that price discovery. Let's save people money. Let's get them wholesale dealer prices that they couldn't get anywhere else. Now they're going to buy the token. Now they're interested, right? They're not necessarily interested in the technology. It's what it allows them to do. So I think that is the key component, the kind of North Star that you need to be building towards. And then there's a bunch of short-term metas. So, where is the liquidity today? What chain is it in? Who are those audience members? And then how do they want to transact? Are you having calls with them so you understand their user needs and what they actually want to do? And so what we've tried to do at Kettle is create a balanced incentives program on blast, that we really want to reward all of our users in a big way. So that's kind of how we're riding the current meta, but it's really important to actually see, okay, if we abstract away all of the Ponzi-nomics and all the points, what is left underneath, and is that value? And if it is, then push on that. And I think eventually, that will overcome and people will see that value.
I think this is something that is extremely important to touch on, and it's something that obviously we're in a bull market right now. Things are going up. People are starting to pay attention again. Like I'm having normie friends hit me up. They're like, yo, Dalton, what do I buy? And I'm like, fuck, dude, is this a top signal? And I'm just like, I'm very nervous about that, right? I think we kind of all are. That being said, like this question of like building for who is here now versus building for people that are going to come is a problem that I see specifically in the RWA space. I think RWAs are extremely interesting. It's an aha moment for normies. They're like, oh, wait, that kind of makes sense to me. Like concert tickets and shit like that, right? That's something that people can understand. They're like, okay, authenticity, this, that, and the other. Now, I think the main issue here is like, how do you entice people that are here? Because the crypto users that are here are going to be the people that are bringing in the volume, right? Like that's just how it is. You can build for the people that are coming, but that being said, like how long is it going to take? And we're already seeing this on Base. We're seeing it on Blast. ETH has obviously had its own arc, right? But I think it's something to be cautious about. And this is something that I've said to Jenn when we did an RWA podcast before. I was just like, I feel like we're fucking early. Like I feel like this is a cycle away. Is that something you fear? And like, obviously the question remains like building for people that are here using incentives and things like that, tokenization and like TGE events are huge, but like, is that a worry for you guys?
Not at all, not for a single second. Really? No, I think, Web3 is the perfect beta, right? Like this is our...
I told you. No, I'm telling him
This is always an issue with us. I'm always like, I think we're early, man. I think
we're definitely early. 100% we're early. But, it's when you're creating unnecessary friction and like we are in the perfect world to test out products like the three of us are building, right? Colony's a Web3 native team. We know where our roots are. We will always support the core community that's been building with us from day one. But ultimately, the product we're building is that perfect Web 2.5 product. Mm-hmm. And there's a way to do both simultaneously. I think it's, taking considerations obviously into the UI and, how is that going to translate when a Web 2 consumer comes in? Honestly, when we're talking about like points programs and incentive campaigns, there's a lot of cohesion with your typical Web 2 loyalty programs. So I don't think you have to look at it separately. I think you have to be conscious that there's cohesion, but it's not something that has to be forced at all. I think like you can know your roots, know the consumer that's in the room right now, and have that roadmap consumer in front of mind as you're building each piece of the platform and moving forward.
I just want to say I love that because I feel like I meet a lot of founders and a lot of teams that are like, yeah, we're going to build this great platform. And I'm like, okay, who's your target user? And like, they can't really put together that picture like perfectly clear and it's constantly shifting. And I get that we need some of that flexibility when we're building, but I think really understanding your end users' pain points and always having that front and center and trying to solve that is just so key, whether you're in Web 3 or Web 2. One of the things that I actually think is really interesting. So we touched on this. Ecosapiens is still currently on ETH mainnet. Kettle started beta on ETH mainnet. You guys just did public launch on Blast. And Colony, we're going to talk about this too, because I think you guys were slated to launch Polygon, I want to say. And now you're going to be doing your mainnet launch also on Blast. Yep. Can you guys both walk me through the thought process that caused you guys to kind of either shift gears or be like, yeah, let's go to Blast as our L2 versus somewhere like Base, where like I very much look at Base and I'm like, that is a very consumer friendly chain, just given, the reputation that comes with Coinbase and off ramping from Coinbase, et cetera, et cetera. Like, why Blast?
For Blast, so it was a tough decision for Kettle to kind of pick an L2 to go to. There's a few things that we were thinking about throughout that process. One, we know that mainnet is untenable during a bull market, so we knew we had to find a new home. In looking at the other chains, Base came up as a really compelling chain to build on. This was before all the very recent, you could say like excitement around Base and the meme coins and all those things, but I do have faith that that chain is going to be absolutely massive. And some spoiled alpha here, like Kettle does plan on being fully multi-chain. Like we see the future as being that way. We think the bridges are going to improve. We think it's going to be seamless to take an NFT from one chain to another. So we're really excited about that and building that out as time goes on to actually go to the Base chain. So in terms of Blast itself, we've been doing lending on these luxury watches for months, and we kept reaching out to our lenders and saying, hey, we have some refinances available. Are you ready to lend? And they'd said, well, all my money's locked up on Blast. So it goes back to that conversation about the audience. Who are your users? Who are they? What are they doing? And in our case, they had all the money on Blast, and so it was a pretty easy decision for us there. So that's kind of why we chose, not to mention the excitement. And frankly, we love the Blast ecosystem, but we believed that there needed to be a new type of app there. There's a lot of what I believe to be like carbon copies of either apps from other chains or just on Blast.
I love that. And I'm really excited about this Blast for Space conversation. I think it's something that is really exciting to me. And I think that this is going to be a continuous conversation that we have throughout this cycle, right? Now, as for like L2s and fragmenting of liquidity, I think that that's a very important topic, right? And like, I think attention economy is also a really important topic. I think for me personally, Base is going to take time to onboard those people. And this is going back to that conversation of saying like, are you building for people that are here right now, or are you like kind of waiting in the wings? And that's a reason why I started cutting my Base positions, where I was just like, like this might take a lot of time, right? Like it is something that as a trader, I'm starting to pay attention to. Now, that being said, the incentivization of building on Blast, next level, right? Like, how are you guys seeing that, Andrea? Like, are you excited for that? What are some of these, like, especially with native yield and things like that you can implement on Blast? Like, is that something that you guys are paying attention to?
We look for every opportunity to be able to engage our community and give back to, again, particularly the people that have been here early on. And the incentive program to build on Blast is massive. Coupled with our own, I think that it's just going to make day-to-day on our platform even better. I'll say, to go back to the question of why we made that pivot to go from Polygon to Blast. And, I can't say enough about the Polygon team. They're amazing. I echo the plans for being multi-chain in the future. That's a huge priority for us. But you bet on teams, right? And if you were here when Blur launched, they changed a pattern of behavior within weeks in this space that really no one thought could be changed that quickly. So to bet on a team that already did that successfully was a no-brainer, right? We knew that they had the finger on the pulse of the day-to-day consumer in this space, who again is our target and is our beta. And it made sense to just kind of run towards that head first.
Love the Blast Alpha. I think that that's a very exciting part of the space. It's like we said, this is something that we're paying attention to, that we're both farming and both paying attention to and both putting all of our liquidity towards. Now, Nihar, ETH mainnet, you guys are building on ETH. I have been very hot about this on Twitter and gas prices and ETH NFTs going down and things like that. Like, we've seen a trend of ETH NFTs trending down, right? Like, this is just something that we're seeing in the space. How do you feel about building on ETH? Is this something that you guys are paying attention to? Are you having FOMO of L2s? Like, how is this going for you guys?
Well, it's funny. Dalton, is like 2 years ago, or a little over 2 years ago, when we started the company, and when Ethereum was still proof of work, it was basically like a cardinal sin to do anything climate on ETH, right? And so you saw a lot of people actually go on Polygon, on Cello, on whatever, but like kind of what Sean was saying is like, you got to fish where the fish are, right? And for NFTs at that time, you had to be on ETH. People paid the prices, you could charge more, whatever. And we sort of had this conviction that, well, maybe a little bit of, I wouldn't say conviction. I think we got a little lucky, but we did deploy when ETH went proof of stake, right? So we chose to like stay the course on ETH then. But the funny thing is, we were actually probably going to launch in Solana initially, and everyone said, "Don't do that. Don't do that." 2 years ago. It's funny. It's like 2 years later, now everyone's like, "Why aren't you on Solana?" And now I'm here like, well, you can't just like rip apart, the infrastructure and go build, use Rust and go deploy on Solana tomorrow, right? You can't do that. We have, by the way, since deployed on, the other EVMs, right? Polygon, Cello, Avalanche, whatever. But we've used those for more for enterprise B2B2C products. We will be launching on Solana really soon. But I think the reason, like why Solana, it still goes back to liquidity. If Solana today didn't have the same liquidity or the attention that If it had similar attention to or liquidity as it did, 2 years ago when there were no NFTs, we wouldn't do it. I'm actually like, to achieve our mission of making climate accessible, impactful, transparent, etc. Truth is, whether it's base or optimism or any of they all serve our need at a technical level, but it's really about where can we reach the most people, right? And if we can reach the most people, we can have the most impact.
I'm very excited for this because obviously I've been very bullish Sol like that.
My soul daddy.
That's right, baby. But to hear that you guys are going over there right now, we're seeing a similar kind of movement with Sol NFTs as we are to ETH NFTs, right? Like NFTs, we're in a meme coin super cycle, and this is the state of affairs that we're seeing within the crypto space, right? But I think in terms of RWAs and actually bringing life to NFTs and saying like, okay, you're buying this and this is actually helping the planet. Now, if you can kind of find a way to spin that in the right direction and you're on ETH and on Sol, like you're tapping into the liquidity that exists. And at some point we're going to see ETH NFTs come back. Like, I don't doubt that, right? Like there's at some point there has to be, I don't know, like some revitalization of ETH NFTs, right? But also you tapping the Sol market, that's pretty exciting.
Well, Dalton, just to kind of riff off that, I think the challenge of Sol today is that it's not necessarily the most integrated in the broader ecosystem or with Web 2. I mean, look, we use Third Web for a lot of our infrastructure, and they don't make smart contracts or anything on Solana, right? So like, if we want to move really fast, the place still is, if you want to move really fast in a Web 2 world, I think you still have to be on some type of EVM related, chain. I mean, look, like our products today are for Web 2. They're gasless. You can use credit cards. That infrastructure isn't necessarily there for Solana yet. It'll happen.
Well, and then going into EcoFi, I want to double click on this because we see NFT finance popping off on the ETH side, EVM side. We do not see that on Solana. You have SharkyFi, you have a couple NFT perps platforms, but outside of that, there really isn't any financialization of NFTs. What can you give us a little bit of alpha here?
So, like I was mentioning before, like we do carbon credit NFTs, right? And carbon credits themselves, they're either just they're almost like a donation, or you can push the boundaries and go into DeFi. DeFi NFT equal NFT 5, obviously. I do see what we really believe that, and it goes back to the thesis of climate impact. Like, if you can make climate accessible, financially attractive, transparent, and social with art, right? Then I think you actually hit the perfect, Venn diagram of human incentives, right? So like, imagine if we could make a solar energy. Dalton, imagine if we gave you like what if we created an NFT backed by solar energy credits that you get to say that if you purchase, you're like, I now own assets that are helping accelerate solar farm development in the world, and here's my art collectible that sort of signals, and it's like your virtue signal, and it's like art that earns yield, right? I'm saving the planet and I'm getting yield. I mean, that sounds really cool.
Sounds like it belongs on blast.
Ooh. We need to blast it to the moon is what we need to do, but
Is that some alpha? Blink if you need help.
yeah. But look, on the chain piece on that, I don't know. I'm actually kind of curious how y'all think about it, but ETH is, I mean, do you want to pay fees on that? I don't think so. So there is this question of like, what chain do you build it on, etc. But that's the idea. It's like NFT art saves the planet, earns yield.
Yeah, I actually have a question for you guys in the panel. Like, something that we've seen on Solana with RWAs that I think has just absolutely exploded is Parcel, and they're not non-fungible RWAs. Dalton, I can't tell if you love it or hate it.
I actually minted like 5. And yeah, and it was one of my first or second proof deep dives. And I remember getting absolutely roasted in the proof Discord. I remember this. And they were like, dude, RWAs, it's not going to happen, bro. It's not going to happen. And I was so early to that. 2 sold. I was like, fuck it, I'm break even, dog. I'm out. And I sold it 2 sold, and then it went to whatever it's at today. So
I love Parcel.
yep.
I know absolutely nothing about the housing market. I'm just like, I think housing in Los Angeles is overpriced. Short, like it's gonna come down. I can't afford a home here. I'm gonna short it.
I did the same thing for New York, by the way.
Love.
That's all everyone does. But I don't know. I think there's something there, and the energy and really the liquidity that they were able to capture in just such a short amount of time. I mean, I think since December they've went from $20 million to $100 million in TVL to put it towards these perps, I guess.
We were talking about Parcel around that time, like right around the time I bought Popcat.
Yeah, well, Popcat, R.I.P. Well, and this goes back to the incentivization part, right? Like, I think that there has to be a way, and going back to your point of like, does it really matter what chain you're on? I think it does. Coming from a trader, right? Like, it really does, because like, I'm not gonna fucking go to Polygon. I'm not. Like, you could tell me that there's 10,000x rewards going on over there, and I wouldn't go. Because it's just, there's too much resistance to me, and I think lowering that resistance is extremely important, right? Like, one click, too many, I'm like, fuck. If I have to bridge and it takes 5 minutes, I'm like, like to Polygon. Now, I'll do that to go to Base. I'll do that to go to Solana, but I'm not going to do it you get what I'm saying? So like, that's where like the social credibility aspect of whatever chain you're building on does matter. But that's also something that I've seen within the Solana NFT Fi ecosystem. Aside from Parcel, Sujiku still hasn't launched. RIP my bags there. Sujiku still hasn't launched. And then like Tensor has kind of integrated some of these like price lock and things like that, like options and things. But there really hasn't been much evolution over there from 18 months ago, right? And like these teams have been building and building and building and building, but we're not seeing the degen kind of behavior really get attracted to these NFT Fi ecosystems yet. I am bullish on NFT Fi, but I'll be excited to kind of see how that plays out.
I think the NFT whales probably need to stop bleeding first. It's looking really brutal right now in the market. I want to, like, speaking of like what comes next, I would love to know where each one of you guys sees your unique like vertical of RWAs within the next 10 years. So I want to know what that looks like for luxury watches, what that looks like for collectibles and beyond, because I think Colony could potentially be expanding. I don't know if I need to edit that out. And I would love to know what that looks like in your head for carbon credits, Nihar.
So for us, I envision a world where, 80, 90% of all trades, buy, sells of luxury watches occurs on Kettle or a platform like Kettle, on chain, where there's anyone in the world can go to Google and search any type of watch that they're either looking to buy or sell, and they'll immediately see the top bids for it and understand what it's worth. And then now I want people to be very knowledgeable. So when they go to a pawn shop, when they go to a dealer, whatever it is, IRL, they now have all that information and that ammunition to make sure that they're not going to get scammed. So I think the space will entirely change. I think it's going to put a lot of dealers out of business because they prey on a consumer who doesn't know the prices. And so that's what I hope to bring to the space. And I hope that we can bring that to other asset classes as well. I mean, jewelry, precious metals, all these things. Cars,
Yeah.
houses, we've done some deals like that. So I think the concept can really scale. It's just a matter of getting it right here and making sure that we're bringing that value. So I think the space is going to be entirely changed. I think secondary markets will be, never the same.
Okay, so where's the alpha? When? What am I looking forward to next?
You've got a lot to look forward to. We've got a lot more watches coming on the platform, a lot more liquidity. Obviously, there's all the blast incentives, and
Anything redacted?
there's something redacted.
Okay. I like that. I take that. I'll take that. Andrea, your turn.
I think we're on the brink of a massive paradigm shift for collectibles in general. It just makes too much sense to integrate blockchain, and you're really solving too many problems for this not to become a mainstream application. For Colony, we start with graded collectibles. So, anything from TCG to comics to Funkos. And then we expand. I think there's going to be, if you look at the offering that you see on Whatnot, there'll be a pretty good parallel if you're going to compare. But we are taking it a step further and again, really looking at partnerships with these small to mid-sized reseller brands and building our brand with theirs. And
It sounds like really you guys have a lot of fuel to throw on the fire.
A ton.
Like you guys,
A ton.
yeah. Like if this was a fire, you're about to like just pour a bunch of gasoline
ready.
onto it.
Yeah.
Let's fucking go.
yeah, we're super excited. We have been thoughtfully building for just almost 2 years now. So the time is now. We're super excited. I'll say the alpha that I can give is there is a link that the team has here in New York that if you get your hands on it, you will probably want to connect your wallet and register. That's what I will say. That's my alpha.
When do you leave New York?
I'll DM you.
I appreciate you not having like. Thank you. I didn't want to chase you down, but I'll take it.
DM you.
Quick question on collectibles and kind of the Web 2 market. Obviously, this is a massive, massive Web 2 market,
Huge.
right? Like you have, like when I think of collectibles, like Pokemon, I was never really into Pokemon, but obviously my best friend, dude, he's like a massive Pokemon card trader. He goes to all the yard sales. He goes to all the swap meets, things like that. And it's a huge thing for him, right? Are you seeing Web 2 companies reach out to people like yourself asking like, dude, what the fuck do we do? Like, how do we go about this? How do we create the social credibility that is necessary for, and like we were talking about it there, like how do you create the social credibility that is necessary to either A, get the crypto degens on your side, or B, onboard normies that are willing to pay X amount of fees to take part in digital collectibles?
I'll say, I mean, in full transparency, we're still at the hunting stage, right? So the team is actively forging those partnerships with resellers, and it's our outreach that's making it happen. So credit to the team because we've got some really exciting ones to announce in the next couple weeks. But when we start those conversations, I wouldn't say that they're pursuing the degens yet. These brands, they're obviously interested. A lot of them have been approached from a fractionalization perspective in the past, and it's turned them off a bit. So there's a little bit of re-education up front on, well, this isn't that, but let me tell you what it can do for you. And then, post that initial, here are the benefits, here's the problem we're solving, there's not a lot of pushback. Because for these reseller brands, it's not an all or nothing. We're not saying take all of your inventory off of Whatnot or eBay or whatever you're doing and completely change. It's do 20%, do 10%, do your highest value assets. And it's training wheels into blockchain, essentially. But it's been really positive so far, for sure.
I love that. Nihar, your turn.
So, I mean, look, I think part of our mission is to turn carbon into like a form of currency, right? And so I think you're actually going to see carbon infiltrate the transaction layer way more. Every time you swipe a credit card, right? Every time you shop sustainably, every time you offset like a flight, right? Or Taylor Swift offsets like her whole life, hopefully. We're gonna make the Swift sapien. That's the alpha. That's where we're going.
I want VIP access.
Yeah, I'm in.
Alpha access.
I'm in.
No, but like, so we're actively working with large brands and retailers in Web 2 to actually help integrate like our carbon collectibles into physical products, right? So you buy a sustainable shoe, it comes with it's a digital twin that's also like we call it a carbon copy. You get it?
That's great.
Clever.
Yeah, exactly. So it's enabling you to like actually get a reward for making a climate positive purchase or decision, right? So we are actively working on that. Next time you guys are in Home Depot or Target, look at a company called Rosy Soil. It's a little garden or soil company. But we also work with like fashion and a number of other partners that I can't yet name. And then on the Web3 side, we're gonna go way more degen. I think we're gonna lean into the EcoFi and the financialization of our NFTs, and we will be going into Solana really soon. So that's sort of the thing. But carbon everywhere, carbon as a currency, physical, digital, Web3, Web2, we're gonna do it all.
I think the carbon kickbacks is actually really exciting to me. Like that's a really solid, just because in terms of you being able to think about how you're receiving. I have a quick story. So my girlfriend, Ali, she was on Farcaster, right? And obviously Farcaster is not RWA or anything like that, but in terms of onboarding, it's been a really interesting exercise of seeing how decentralized social media can onboard people. We saw it similar with FriendTech, right? Like FriendTech was another one. And I got my girlfriend to start posting, and she was like super excited about it. And then Ben Roy, a good friend of ours, gave her 40,000 DGen as like a tip, right? He was just like, okay, cool. It's like the end of the night, 40,000 DGen to Ali. And she checked her airdrop, and now her airdrop is worth over $2,000, right? Huge. And that was just from her posting on a decentralized social media. Now, I think in terms of carbon credits or in terms of collectibles or whatever the case may be, I think onboarding people, somebody posted, I think it was Charlie Cohen, said like, not having to buy something and hitting a 20x and actually receiving something from like a merit-based airdrop is another story, right? And that becomes really exciting. Like if I'm swiping my credit card and I'm getting a carbon kickback, or if I am doing something and I get an NFT, and I think this is something that Pudgy Penguins did a really good job of as well. Like you buy a Pudgy and you get an NFT, right? And like that onboarding process is super important, and that's onboarding, right? But then you've also touched on ERC 404s and fractionalization you were just chatting on. Like there are ways that we can attract crypto degens to this, and that's something that, as of right now, is there a way outside of Ecosapiens, in terms of fungible token companies and things like that, that are building in the carbon credit arena that you can like maybe bundle like an ETF style, like carbon credits on chain? Is that something that exists yet? Or what does the carbon credit ecosystem look like for crypto as of right now?
It's just starting to blossom. So, no, so I mean, look, 2 years ago there was this whole hype around carbon credits with KlimaDAO, for example, Flow Carbon, a few others. I won't bore you guys with like the technicalities of that market, but for a few reasons, regulatory based, it's been hard to get a lot of those assets to market, right? That's changed. There are companies like Jasmine Energy today. There are companies, Toucan, for example, out in Germany that's starting to do this. They already pull together various different asset types of carbon credits to kind of create like a singular unit. We are going to be working with a lot of those players to build our NFT-Fi, EcoFi product. But this wasn't possible 2 years ago. It like just became possible in the last like 6 months.
This goes back to the point you guys were talking about, like infrastructure is here, and we finally are entering into a phase where things can actually scale in a meaningful way for the first time in like crypto, Web3, rail history. I don't know how we want to phrase that. Infrastructure. Yeah, infrastructure. I'm trying to make it sound fancy, okay? I have glasses, I have a clipboard, I'm trying to look super smart. Well, guys, I hate to try to wrap this up, but I would like to try to do that before all of the cameras completely die again. So before we do, is there anything you guys want to share or like mention? Anything else we should be looking out for? Like, I feel like we went so deep in so many different like paths in this conversation today, but like, is there something that you and your team are actively working on that it's like you want to call attention to in the short time?
I mean, I guess I'll start. If you're interested in making some yield on watches in terms of being a lender and you like being a crypto degen, I would say check out Kettle and see what we're trying to bring to the table here in terms of RWAs. You will make money, that much we guarantee. And then some of our watch deals are also insane, especially coming up. So if you're trying to get a steal for a watch, definitely check the website in the next week or so.
I would say, turn your notifications on for the main Colony handle. The lights are going to go on in about 2 weeks. We're going to have some really, really amazing assets on day one in the marketplace. If you are a reseller, content creator, and you're interested in engaging your community in a drop, reach out. Let's have some fun. But yeah, don't sleep.
You said 2 weeks? I've been waiting for this. I've like been waiting.
You got to hold Pratik to that.
I'll text him.
Yeah, no, 2 weeks.
One, if you are a brand retailer, Web 2, Web 3, doesn't really matter. If you are interested in integrating Web 3 native sustainability into your brand, we have a new product called EcoLink, and we're quite literally fixing the website, and it'll be launched really soon. Love to talk to you. The other thing is we have a drop on Solana coming out in 2 weeks.
If we hold
the end
your
of the
ETH NFTs, does that tie to the Soul Drop?
You will get it for free.
Okay, there's some more alpha guys. I just want to say, you guys are the first 3 that we are getting to interview in this format. So, like, thank you for the patience with the tech difficulties. But, like, more importantly, thank you for making time and supporting Remit Reality and Dalton and I as creators. Like, to be able to do this for me is personally a dream come true. So I just want to say thank you for your time and thank you for your support.
No, dude, this has been super cool to be able to chat on RWAs. I think that there's so many different ways that you guys are going about building that it's really exciting. And you guys are all touching specific verticals, right? And I think that even seeing ETH mainnet and the transition to Sol, you're having collectibles go live on Blast, which is going to be freaking insane. Like, that's so exciting to me. And obviously, I knew you guys from the Skillet days. That was like the lending aggregation. I was like so bullish NFT lending, and like now you're finding your way to pivot and like really be somebody that is moving and shaking in the space. Like, this is really exciting to me, and thank you for kind of bringing RWAs to the forefront and being builders that we can respect and have these conversations with. So really appreciate it.
Wow. Thank you guys.
And you too.
Yeah, you guys are doing so much
Long
for this
Remit
space.
Reality, right?
Yeah.
Long.
That's the only thing I'm long right now.
Okay, fair. Super fair. But really, guys, if you enjoyed this episode, please give it a like, give it a share, because these companies and builders are the ones that are actually building for the folks that are coming, and that the folks who are actually going to take Web3 and crypto to hit that massive hockey stick. Massive hockey stick user adoption we've all been waiting for and looking for. So, as always, until the next one, bearish or bullish, keep building. Dalton?
Let's do it, bro. Thank you guys.
All right. Have a good one, everyone.